One thing we saw when Coach Rolovich was the head coach is that there was a lot of rotation at the right guard spot with Cade and Maake. Is that something you plan on keeping going forward, or you kind of leave that in the hands of Brian Smith?
I'm going to leave that in Brian's hands. I think we do want to have a rotation. We do want to keep guys fresh, but I'm a big believer in competition, so we're going to play the hot hand. We're going to play the guy that practices the well and the most. But, we've been a little bit of rotation in the front just with guys being injured and moving pieces around anyway, so I'm a big believer, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, giving guys roles because I think it improves their focus and their intensity, throughout the week. So we'll continue to do that. But yes, Brian will make that call.
And then on the defensive line, we've seen a lot of constant rotation with, 5, 6 guys, especially on the interior. Have there been any 2 guys that have really stood out to you at that spot?
The one guy that really stands out is Amir Mahajid. I think technique-wise, focus-wise, discipline, he's really excelling at the things that we're asking him to do. Even being a little light in the shorts, I think he goes in there and he fights and he scraps. Okay, I think the signature – you can say whatever you want about our defense. The signature is our guys going to play hard. They care a lot, and they're doing what we're asking them to do. Okay, and I'll coach that type of player in person every day. And I think Amir really embodies that. I think Antonio Poulet, every day since he's been here, has gotten better, and I still think he can keep improving. So that's exciting for us as a staff, and I know that's exciting for him. But our guys, they play with an energy and effort that I love. They care about each other. They show it every day. And those are the things as coaches, you can really grab onto, and we'll coach those guys any day because they care and they're continuing to care. And we love that.
And then just kind of asked this Monday as well, but do you think you'll have Dion Saturday, or is that still up in the air?
Dion's looking pretty good so far, so we're excited, interested to watch the tape today and see how he moved around. But I think he's making those strides that he'll definitely have a role come Saturday.
We've seen an uptick lately in Quinn Roth's, playing time, and, he had a big strip sack against Stanford. What has he done that has really stood out to you?
Just fundamentally really, really sound, and we can rely on Quinn. And I think that's a good place to be. And that's the competition part I'm talking about. Eddie made a big splash. Andretchen made a big splash starting out. Sometimes you hit that little freshman wall and you got to keep pushing. And we've relied on Quinn a little bit more just to come in there and give us a little bit of jolt. But, competition brings out the best in everybody, not just on the football field, in academics, in life. So we're just excited that we have a group that, hey, let's go. And they have to bring their best every day. They have to earn their playing time. But ultimately, my job is to play the best people, and Quinn's doing a better job of constantly earning more reps. So that's exciting for us as a team, and I know it's exciting for him as a player.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck this week.
I appreciate it.
Again, if you have any questions for Coach Dickert, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Coach, next question is going to be Colton Clark, Colts Review. Go ahead, Colton.
Good morning, Coach. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm wondering, can you kind of compare and contrast practices from last week to now? Have things steadied out pretty considerably?
Yeah, I would say so. The energy and the effort's there. The pride and the passion is there. And even this week we trimmed back a little bit. I think it's that time of year. A little bit less indie, a little bit less group work against each other, but the passion, fire, the intensity and effort that we are out there for has really returned, and just the guys enjoying each other. I mean, it's back to where we should be.
And we've talked a little bit about Dennis and Dan, and how they're familiar with the system and everything. But could you break down their coaching styles? What kind of guys do they seem to be just on the field? And I guess you'd only have full practices with them now.
Yeah. I think Coach Morrison. I mean, he's very, very methodical, right? He's not a big yeller or screamer. He's a bringing in close. Hey, let's talk about what you're seeing, what you're reading. Here's what I saw. Really wants the input from Jaden. You know what I mean? He's not the one with the helmet on. So, hey, what'd you see? Okay, this is what I saw. This is how we can correct it. This is our read. Stay on course. But I think just very much a teacher of the game, a believer in people. That's really what I'm seeing out there. And then obviously Coach McKnight is an energy starter. I just appreciate his energy, his effort. He's got a big barrel chested, loud voice, big roar, but his passion just shows. And he's your classic O-line coach that loves the game, brings an energy, and I think our guys have really accepted, hey, just maybe a little bit of a new way to look at some things. I think you're a lifelong learner in whatever you do. So I think even our old guys just seeing a different perspective have taken over for a couple things, but you can hear Coach McKnight from miles away, right? So I love his energy that he brings every day, and I think he's been really good for our football program.
With Jaden DeLora, what kinds of maturity has he shown you, in terms of growing and leading through this situation?
I think the biggest thing with young people is some people expect them to be perfect, and we just expect them to keep growing and having progress. Okay. I think there's a big distinction there, so he's constantly learning. But I think on the football field, you really see something that he's really passionate about. And then daily, he's just gotten better of just saying, hey, my voice matters. How I practice, how I prepare, my body language matters, and it affects everyone else around me. So it's really cool to just see his maturation process, but also the trust that the men around him have in him. And then I think when that's reciprocated, we can build something really, really strong behind Jaden, and that's through his confidence. So like I said this when I first sat in this chair, is that the biggest change has been him, his play, but the belief in himself and everyone else around him. Okay. I think that part of that position is just so special, and then, off the field, we're continuing to grow, right? Up our communication with everyone around us and understand, when you're the face of the program that he is, everyone's watching, everyone's helping you and him, so I'm just excited that he's continuing to grow in everything he's doing, and we're continuing to pour into his life. And, obviously that progress is continuing to happen, and he'll continue to learn and grow, and don't expect him to be perfect, but just excited about where he's at.
Thanks very much.
You bet.
All right, last chance for questions for Coach Dickert. Last chance. Go ahead, Colton.
Right back at it. I like it. Right back at it.
I wanted to give other people a chance, but
okay.
I had more Arizona State's offense. Of course, Jaden Daniel is kind of when he gets contained, that's kind of how you stall the offense. Is that kind of keyed on for you guys this week, and emphasis for you this week, getting those edges to keep him bottled in the pocket?
Yeah, and I really wish it was that simple. You're talking about a guy that's completing 70% of his passes. So the old adage of keeping him in the pocket and let him throw, he's been very efficient there. But to your point, he is the most dangerous when he's off schedule, when he improvises. But it isn't just scramble to run either. It's scramble to pass. He does a good job keeping his eyes downfield. He's one of the most dynamic players in our league, and I think he's surrounded, by a bunch of talent, a really big and physical offensive line. So he doesn't need to do it by himself, so scheme-wise, I think that they do a really good job of finding and getting the ball in their best players' hands, and then being really physical up front.
When this game comes around, are there – let's see if I can phrase this correctly – just kind of any different approaches that you guys as a staff will take to game day? Something maybe you learned last week that does work or that doesn't work, that, we need to make little tweaks how we communicate with each other here, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Oh, I think defensively, I think even we were better, so much better from the first half to the second half, and just understanding, hey, this is the process that we need to do as soon as we get off the field to get the best information and correction to our guys. Offensively, I think there were some things just with, who's signaling, how we're getting that in, the information we're getting from the booth to the field, and I think now that we have a game under our belt, just everyone knows their roles, what they're looking at, the communication structure, even mine between Coach Krantz and Coach Smith will be better this week even. And I thought it was good in game one. So all those things. And when I said learning process, I just meant, you can't replicate that, so going through it again here in game two of us being together, I think it'll be smooth. And once again, I think our guys trust the staff, and they know that we have their best interest at heart, and we're going to put them in good positions to make plays.
And this last one's kind of out of left field, but I'm writing about Travell Harris, and you'd kind of talked about how the captains have really, kind of helped ease this transition. Just in Travell, what kind of leadership qualities has he shown you just kind of in the short time that you've been communicating with him more?
Well, I think Travell is one of those guys that is passion. He plays with passion. He lives with passion. He plays with emotions. And I think he's done a good job of channeling those emotions and still putting his best foot forward, which I think is hard to do when you're a passionate guy and a passionate player. But he's an emotional fire starter for us. So when he's rolling and he's feeling good and he's confident in what we're doing and he's doing his assignments well, that's when everyone else, he's one of those energy guys in the team. And, teams need those guys and they need those players to be themselves, so Travell is that. And I think he did a good job last week of saying, hey, let's go. We're all in this thing together. And I think that was the most important part, whether it was offense, defense, special teams. I think our senior leaders and captains, did a good job of keep pressing forward and know that we all got a job to do.
Thanks a lot.
You bet.
All right, our last one's going to be from Jamie Vinnick of Kook Fan. Go ahead, Jamie.
Coach, I asked earlier about the offensive line rotation, and just specifically with Cade, what have you kind of seen in his growth over the last couple of years?
Well, I haven't been watching him for a couple of years. I will say that. Okay. But just watching him on the practice field, he's one of those not underappreciated, maybe underrated, but, the other guys get a lot of the attention in the press, and they should because they're good players. But Cade has done a good job of just being extremely steady and having a presence about him. I congratulated him because, I always watch when we make a big play. I watch everyone's reaction. I think that's a big deal. And we made the 4th down stop. And I caught Cade in the lunchroom the other day. I said, man, I saw the biggest fist bump, he was slapping everyone in his hands. He was taking the field. He was throwing his helmet on, and just a guy that's engaged in the game and engaged in his teammates and just loves being out there and probably doesn't get enough credit. So just excited about the way he's played. And like I said, through the moving pieces, it's been challenging this year at times. And I think he's done a good job just being really solid at his position.